My mom wasn't. Hannah Gosselin's voice trails off, caught between emotion and hesitation. It's one of the rare times she's chosen to speak publicly about her mom, Kate. Ever since she was a toddler, Hannah, along with her siblings, has been part of a household millions of viewers watched unfold on reality TV. What started as a sweet look into a family with twins and sextuplets soon became something much heavier. Behind the scenes, tension simmered until it shattered the family's picture-perfect image. Now, after years of silence and separation, Hannah is finally opening up, and what she has to say is making people rethink everything they believed about the Gosselins. So what really went on behind closed doors? Let's take a closer look at what Hannah revealed, and why it's changing the narrative. Hannah Gosselin didn't just grow up like any other kid. Her life was on full display from the moment she was born. As one of the sextuplets in the show Jon and Kate +8, she was part of a weekly TV ritual for millions. Viewers tuned in to see the daily chaos of raising 8 kids, charmed by the routines, meltdowns, and Kate's famously firm parenting. But what fans didn't see was the cost of that fame. For Hannah and her siblings, their childhood wasn't just filmed, it was produced. Every milestone, every tantrum, every laugh, even their fights were broadcast to the world. Privacy simply didn't exist. Imagine being a kid with a mic always clipped to your shirt, knowing your most personal moments could end up on national television. For Hannah, that was normal life. As time went on and the kids got older, cracks in the polished image of the Gosselin family began to appear. What once looked like a structured home began to feel more like a pressure cooker. Jon and Kate's relationship started to unravel, turning from reality TV's favorite couple into bitter enemies. Their messy, very public divorce in 2009 didn't just break up their marriage. It pulled the entire family apart. Suddenly the kids weren't all under the same roof anymore. The split wasn't just emotional, it became physical too, with siblings ending up on different sides. And while both parents shared their own versions of what happened in interviews, it was clear the damage had already been done. Kate got primary custody, while Jon fought hard just to stay in his kids' lives. Among all the children, it was Hannah who began to stand out. Even before the split, there were moments when she seemed out of place, visibly uncomfortable during certain scenes of the show. Kate's strict style didn't sit well with her, and over time, fans started noticing. Some even believed Hannah was treated differently than the others. But Hannah never spoke out. She kept her head down and played the part of the obedient daughter, the one who didn't complain. Still, something was shifting. As she got older, she found comfort in her relationship with her dad, Jon. She began spending more time at his house, and by 2018, she made a huge decision. She wanted to live with him full-time. The question is, what led her to that choice? At the time of the divorce, the courts sided with Kate. She was seen as the more stable parent, and she stayed in the family home to raise the kids. Meanwhile, Jon was heavily criticized in the media for what many called a reckless lifestyle, partying in Las Vegas, acting out, and seeming lost after the breakup. Public opinion leaned hard against him, painting Kate as the responsible one. The custody arrangement stayed that way for years. Kate with the kids, Jon with limited visits. But slowly, that dynamic started to change, especially for Hannah. Hannah's bond with her dad grew stronger. She began visiting more often, staying longer. Jon talked openly about how much he valued their time together. Most people assumed it was just a sweet father-daughter connection, but there was more going on. By 2015, Jon admitted he hadn't seen all of his kids together in years, implying Kate was controlling access. Despite that, Hannah kept choosing to be with him. She wasn't afraid to push back. By 2017, whispers started that she wanted to live with Jon permanently, and soon those whispers turned into headlines. Jon made it official, and filed for custody of Hannah. He said she'd clearly expressed that she no longer wanted to live with Kate. The move took fans by surprise. Up until then, everyone assumed the children would stay with their mother. But Hannah's choice wasn't impulsive. It was the result of years of growing up under pressure, of not feeling heard, and of wanting something different. Choosing to leave wasn't something Hannah took lightly. There was a lot beneath the surface, and only now are we starting to understand why. By 2018, after years of legal back and forth and growing unease behind closed doors, Hannah officially moved in with her father, Jon Gosselin. Not long after, her brother Colin joined her. For Jon, it was a rare win in a long battle, but for fans it opened a flood of questions. Why did the two kids break away? Was it just Kate's parenting style that pushed them to make that choice? Or was there more than anyone realized? Even after the big move, Hannah stayed pretty quiet. She never badmouthed her mom, never pointed fingers, but her silence spoke volumes. Now that she's beginning to share bits of her story, we're starting to see a much clearer picture of what life was really like. When it comes to a mother-daughter relationship, you expect it to be close, even unshakable. But for Hannah and Kate, it was never that simple. From the outside, it might have looked like Kate had everything under control, a strong single mom raising 8 kids. But behind the scenes, things weren't quite as smooth. Over time, subtle signs of friction started to show, leading up to the moment Hannah decided to leave her mother's home, and her siblings, to live with her dad instead. She hasn't given a full breakdown of what really went on, but she's dropped enough hints for people to piece things together. In one interview, she cautiously described her mom as a lot, then quickly stopped herself. Just 2 words, but enough to leave people wondering. Was Kate too intense, too strict, emotionally distant? The unfinished thoughts sparked more questions than answers. During the years the family was on TV, Kate became known for her no-nonsense parenting. Managing a household with sextuplets and twins is no small task, and her need for structure made sense. But some episodes made viewers uneasy, especially when it came to how she treated Hannah. Fans pointed out moments where Kate seemed to come down harder on her than the others. Was it just firm parenting, or something deeper? That's a question only the family can fully answer. Still, former crew members, and even Jon himself, have hinted that what the cameras showed was just a softened version of reality. Jon has said Kate's methods went beyond strict, that they were rigid and controlling. He also said Hannah struggled more than the rest under that environment, and wanted out. But why just Hannah and Colin? Why were they the only ones to eventually leave? Some say Hannah and Kate were simply too similar, both strong-willed and outspoken. That kind of dynamic can either bond two people, or create a constant power struggle. Others believe Hannah just wanted a sense of independence, something she couldn't find in Kate's highly structured home. When she moved in with Jon in 2018, it wasn't just about where she lived, it was a loud, undeniable message. She had chosen her father, something no other Gosselin child had done at that point. The decision didn't just change the relationship between Hannah and her mother, it also may have complicated things with her siblings. Suddenly, she wasn't part of the daily routine they all shared. The connection was still there, of course, they were siblings. But things had shifted. Some of them even admitted they wished they had the courage to join her and Colin. Even through all of it, Hannah has never been openly critical of Kate. In interviews, she's chosen her words carefully, never throwing blame or airing all the details. Maybe it's out of respect, maybe it's about protecting some parts of her past, or maybe she's just not ready to share everything yet. What's clear though, is that her relationship with her mom was never easy, and now that she's slowly finding her voice, people are finally beginning to see what life was really like behind the Gosselins' closed doors. After Hannah settled into life with her dad, things started to shift. There was a calmness in the way she talked about her new routine, and for the first time, she sounded content. She described her days with Jon as normal and free, 2 words that quietly hinted at the difference between her old and new life. It became clear that the image of Jon in the media, reckless, unstable, didn't match the version Hannah experienced. He was present, supportive, and gave her room to be herself. In their home, there were no cameras, no strict schedules, and no pressure to live up to a public image. Those early days together weren't just father-daughter bonding time. They were a window into a whole new kind of family life. For Hannah, the change wasn't dramatic, it was just normal. And after everything she'd been through, that one simple word meant everything. After spending so many years under constant watch, following strict routines, and never really feeling like she could just be herself, Hannah craved something simple, something real. With Jon, life was finally calm. She wasn't just one of 8 kids in a tightly run household. She was just Hannah. No cameras, no pressure, just easygoing days, and a father who loved having her around. Jon has talked about their connection with nothing but warmth, calling their relationship close and unbreakable. He also made it clear that he respects her independence and supports her choices, especially when it came to big decisions like leaving her mom's house. This was a major shift from how things were with Kate, whose household ran like a machine, rules first, questions later. For a long time, people have wondered whether Jon played a role in Hannah's decision to leave her mother's home. Was it something he encouraged? Was the idea his? But according to Hannah, the move was completely her own. She said clearly that she felt happier and more at ease with her dad, and when she told him she was ready to make the change, he welcomed her with open arms. Since the switch, she's kept a low profile. Every now and then, she gives her followers little glimpses of her life on TikTok, but she's been careful not to share too much. Maybe it's to protect her family, or maybe she's simply waiting for the right moment to tell her side of the story. Now that she's grown, and more in control of her narrative, Hannah is finally starting to speak about her past, including her complicated relationship with her mom. She's recently been reconnecting with some of her siblings, and it seems like she's ready to be honest about her experience. My mom wasn't the villain people made her out to be, she says after a long pause, but she wasn't perfect either. No parent is. With those words, Hannah starts shedding light on what it was like growing up in a household led by Kate. She admits things between her and her mom were often tense. Living under her roof wasn't easy. Wasn't just the strict rules. It was the way everything was about maintaining an image. Hannah recalls how her mother ran the family like a brand, reminding them that they had to present themselves a certain way. We weren't just her kids, Hannah says. We were the face of something bigger, and I think that's sad. What made things worse was how Kate treated her brother, Colin. In an interview featured in a Vice TV documentary, Hannah shared something shocking. Colin was regularly kept apart from the rest of the kids. He'd eat alone. He wasn't allowed to play outside with them. According to Hannah, their mom even had a special room built, a containment room, where Colin would be locked away. Kate said it was to protect the others from his behavior, but no one ever really knew the full story. Hannah also opened up about how discipline in the house went far beyond raised voices. She described her mother's behavior as physically and verbally harsh, words and actions that stayed with her long after the moment passed. Fans were stunned. People had always suspected Kate could be overly strict, but no one imagined it was to this degree. It was painful. It was heavy. But even with everything she's been through, Hannah doesn't paint her mom as entirely bad. She's quick to say that Kate was strong when the family needed it most. She gave them structure when their world was chaotic, and she worked hard to give them opportunities. There's a lot I've learned from her, Hannah says. Her drive, her work ethic, her resilience. I carry those with me. So what now? Can they rebuild what's been broken? The rift between Hannah and her mom didn't happen overnight, and neither will the healing. Hannah knows that. She says that for a long time, the family felt like it was being torn in half. It was like we had to pick a side, she explains, and no kid should ever have to do that. The fallout from Jon and Kate's divorce didn't just affect the two of them, it changed everything for the kids. After she and Colin went to live with Jon, the rest of the siblings had very little contact with them. Even the bond between brothers and sisters started to fade. Hannah says they did try to reconnect at times, but things often broke down. There was just too much hurt, too much that hadn't been said. I think my mom was really hurt when I left, Hannah admits. She wasn't ready to hear where I was coming from, and honestly, I wasn't ready to understand her either. We both needed time. Now things are slowly shifting. While they're not fully close again, there's at least some communication. Hannah says they've moved from not speaking at all to texting here and there, and even meeting up occasionally. It's far from perfect, but it's something, a small step toward understanding, toward healing, and maybe eventually, forgiveness. These days, Hannah and her siblings are finally able to see each other in casual settings, something that didn't happen for a long time. It hasn't been a smooth road. There have been missteps, misunderstandings, and moments where it felt like they were starting all over again. With so much shared history, it's easy to fall back into old patterns, but what stands out is Hannah's commitment to rebuilding those bonds, especially with the 4 sextuplets who stayed with Kate. They're a part of me in a way no one else could understand, she once shared. I'll always love them. We were in this from the beginning, from the womb to the weird world we grew up in. That kind of connection might stretch, but it never truly breaks. Hannah's been intentional about reconnecting, even organizing low-key get-togethers with her siblings away from the influence of either parent. She and her sister Leah recently went on a fun shopping trip, just the two of them. No pressure, no cameras, just sister time. She believes it's important to meet in neutral spaces where they can talk freely, without worrying about who they might offend. When it's just us, we can be real, she says. We don't have to take sides. Family therapy has helped in bits and pieces, but Hannah admits that not everyone is willing to participate all the time. Healing, she reminds us, isn't something you can schedule. Everyone has to come around in their own time, on their own terms. And while her relationship with Kate may never return to what it once was, Hannah sees potential for something different, something new. We've both changed, she says, so maybe the goal isn't to go back, but to build something that makes sense for who we are now. Despite everything that's come out, interviews, speculation, even the emotional reveals, the complete truth behind Hannah's decision to leave her mom's home may never be fully known. She's been careful in how she speaks, balancing honesty with respect. There's still so much the public doesn't know. People often ask, if things were so bad, why didn't she say something sooner? And what about the siblings who stayed? Did they feel the same way but stay quiet, or did they experience something completely different? At the moment, Hannah seems content with the choice she made. She's not chasing the past. She's focusing on her life now, with Jon, and finding peace in the present. Whether she ever decides to open up further, or encourages her siblings to do the same, is anyone's guess. Some stories are told loudly, others remain close to the heart. What's undeniable is that Hannah's departure reshaped the Gosselin family in a lasting way, and unless she chooses to say more, parts of that story may stay untold. Now that Hannah is stepping into adulthood, she has something she's never really had before: freedom. She's no longer bound by court rulings or reality TV contracts. She gets to write her own story now, without anyone else calling the shots. But the question is, where does she go from here? At the moment, she's keeping things low-key. Aside from occasional TikTok updates for her followers, Hannah has chosen to keep her private life just that, private. While Kate continues to maintain some level of public presence, Hannah seems to prefer something quieter. She shares small pieces of her world with Jon, but hasn't fully opened up about her childhood, or what she's planning next. At 20 years old, the future is wide open. Whether she decides to dive into a new career, go back to school, or maybe even return to TV on her own terms, the choice is entirely hers. And whatever path she takes, one thing is clear: Hannah isn't just Jon and Kate's daughter anymore. She's her own person, and her journey is only getting started. That said, the larger Gosselin story isn't over. Hannah has shared her truth, but the world hasn't yet heard from Kate. Will she ever acknowledge her flaws, the strictness, the control, the damage that might have been done? Time will tell. But one thing's certain: Hannah's voice has finally been heard, and what she revealed left a lasting impression. So what are your thoughts on Hannah's story? Did anything about her experience strike a chord with you or remind you of your own family dynamics? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and share your story. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.